Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2.
Okay, we're gonna start. Okay, I'm just gonna keep on. Right. Good morning, we're glad to have you here today, and the people that are here soon. We have a special today, Kevin, and same with gardening. And that is something that's very important to me, especially because as we get older, it's really important that we take care of our bodies and not too late. There, all right, for that. But a few things to tell you, if things coming up. First of all, this is being sponsored by the Master Gardeners of Hamilton County. For anybody that doesn't know that. And we have a third Saturday class every third Saturday of the month. And today is on the safety. Next month in September, I'm sorry. In September, we will have Lee Anderson with acid loving plants that will be rhododendrons, azaleas, camellias, and that type of thing. And then in October, we're going to have one about pet safety with plants. And that is very important. There is a particular plant that I absolutely love, the oleander. It's a beautiful blooming thing. And I went to Virginia and I saw it growing up there. And my sister was talking about it. It was so pretty. And then I started to look it up, and it's poisonous to cats and dogs and so forth. So I was like, no, not in my yard, even though it's a beautiful plant. So it's important for us to know about if we have our fur, they call them fur babies on the building, that we take care of them and not have anything. Most of the time, animals have a good instinct about that, but not always. So that would be a good program for us in October. And then in November, we have the usual wreath making class. We do that one. Some events that's coming up with the Master Gardeners is just in a couple of weeks. There's going to be a conference. Chattanooga, the Hamilton County Master Gardeners is the second largest in the state. And so the Tennessee state is divided into 3 regions: West, Central, and East. And so the East Conference, which is like the convention, will be held here in Chattanooga, and the Master Gardeners of Hamilton County are the hosts for that particular thing. And so we'll be having people coming in from all over the east part of Tennessee to have a conference, and that's the 8th and 9th of September. Also, the Master Gardeners have a very special thing coming up. This will be our 3rd year. This is the Fall Festival. It will be held here on the grounds of the Arboretum and the classroom that you're sitting in now, or that you took your classes in, if you were a Master Gardener. And we'll have vendors all over here. We'll have the plants and some other natural. It's kind of like a mini expo, but it's outside and about a quarter of the size or whatever, but it's outside as opposed to the inside. But we'll still have demonstrations and things going on. There's this little thing, the microphone just went out. So we'll still have demonstrations going on, just like we did for the expo. But they're adding a few things this year. And there is going to be a booth about pets. Actually, we're going to bring in some pets that are ready to be adopted if people are interested in that. So that will be a good thing. All right, so now it's time to go into our program, and I will introduce to you Skeeter Gallagher. She's been a member of the Master Gardeners here for a couple of years, but her background in gardening is quite extensive, going here back to when she's just a child crawling around the ground with her great-grandmother. And her grandmother taught her a lot of things, and she's going to tell you later why some of this safety thing is so important. Besides the fact that she is also
Department.
military.
Yeah. Oh, I was.
Okay, she was in the military and the Navy, and she was in a lot of safety things then, and then she's had some jobs since then that safety has been what she's been teaching and also practicing. So this is why she is so knowledgeable with this particular subject. So Skeeter. It's yours.
All right, thank you. It's kind of so I don't get feedback. As Carol mentioned, health and safe gardening was part of my life when I was a child. I grew up in Texas. We were very, very poor. So my parents couldn't afford daycare. So during the summer, I got shipped off to my great-grandparents. Okay. My great-grandmother was physically challenged. She lost her left leg when she was a child. And she used a crutch, but she loved to garden. My great-grandfather was a craftsman woodworker. So he modified a lot of her tools to accommodate her. And we would go out in the early mornings, we would get out in the garden, she would plop down on the ground, toss her crutch aside, and we would be out there for 3 or 4 hours. And she would use those modifying tools. So later on in life, I remember that. She also made gardening very fun. So, all right. So here we are. We love to garden, and a lot of people don't think about garden being a form of exercise or physical activity, but you know, it is, and it can be very difficult for individuals. Now, we used to think of it being difficult for people who were getting arthritis and having that type of thing for their population. But unfortunately, with technology, we have a lot of younger people who do this with these small devices. They're getting carpal tunnel in their hands and wrists that's causing them to have difficulty. So by the time they get in their 20s and 30s, they need accommodations. So today we're going to talk about physical challenges. We're going to talk about young risks, environmental risks, and safety risks. Okay. Is that you leave with one piece of knowledge that helps keep you healthy or safe. Okay, that's my goal today. All right. So when I graduated high school, I joined the Navy, and I worked in the Navy safety office. But when I got out of the Navy, I really wanted to work with landscaping and greenhouse production, and I worked in nurseries for about 12 years. During this time, I learned about horticultural therapy, and I started studying it. The University of Kansas did a study where they took people who had high blood pressure, stress, anxiety. They did a study, and they learned that people who got their hands working with the soil actually reduced their blood pressure, anxiety, and their stress. And they documented it. It's good exercise. Sometimes it's a little bit more than we want, but and the mental well-being. How many people have heard somebody say, I gotta go get my therapy and go work in the garden? Because for me, I remember my great-grandmother, and it makes me happy. And so when I garden, I'm happy. And so why do we love to garden? Everybody has their own reason, whether it's beautifying your landscape, attracting wildlife, growing produce. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of younger families start gardening because they wanted to grow their own produce and the physical activity. Okay, so think to yourself, why do I really enjoy it? What aspect makes me happy? I mean, I'm one of those people that you don't find too many of those. So before you get to garden, I want you to think about, okay, am I ready to go out in the garden? This is especially critical if you sat through December and January, nothing. And now you're ready to go out in the garden. Okay, so you might want to start getting ready for that. So make sure that doing some exercises, some bending and squatting and different things to prepare your body after a long inactivity period. So do stretches prior, okay? Oh, because let me tell you, you get out in that garden and you squat or down knees for a while, you're gonna feel sore for the next couple of days. Reduce the stress on your body. So there are things that you can do to help with your body that doesn't require extra tools or anything. Okay, so if something hurts, do it for a little bit, don't overdo it, change your toss. For me, I can't be on my knees all the time. So I do that for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I get up and I do something that allows me to stretch, be straight up. So rotate your tasks. Don't think you have to do everything at that one task at a time. Move it around and get your body to stretch in different positions to help alleviate that. Use good posture. When we bend over, that hurts our back. Okay, we don't want to arch our back like that. We want to make sure that our back stays pretty straight in alignment. So check your body. So use tools, not your hands, and I'll talk more about this later. And listen to your body. It starts to hurt. Doctor, when I do this, it hurts, and the doctor says, don't do it. Don't. Stop and listen to your body. Okay? All right, plan ahead. I have a neighbor that goes out there and does all this work and tills the garden, and does all of this and plants and flowers. And I'm like, I want some perennials so that you don't have to do this year. And use the best tool for the task. Okay, we'll get more into that later, but how many of you have gone to do something and you didn't bring the right tool? I have. I have a small backyard and I have a big fence, and I don't know what's on the other side of my fence. And I went out there with hand pruners. And then I found a weed tree that was about 3 inches in diameter. Hand pruners don't take care of a 3-inch tree. So I went down there, bending it over and using the hand pruners to score this young tree. And I'm like, how stupid am I? Get the right tool. But that's what I mean. We cause more harm to ourselves. Have the correct gear. Okay, so wear the correct gear. A hat. You want a good hat that's floppy and big. You don't want a baseball cap. You don't want a visor. Why? How many of you have gotten burned on the top of your ears? Okay. The top of your scalp. Okay. So you want a good sun hat to protect you from the sun. Protective eyewear. I ride a motorcycle. I wear protective eyewear. Okay. I like these because one, they have a strap. They also have an inner foam breathable lining. So when I'm using sprays, it helps keep that in. The strap keeps it on my head when I get hot and sweaty. These are transition, so they protect me from UV. Because of transition, I also wear these when I'm cutting onions, because they keep up in the fumes. But there's lots of different kinds of gear and eyewear out there. Long sleeves and shirts. I know a lot of people, if you do wear short sleeves, make sure that you use sunscreen. But if you know you're going to be pruning something with thorns, or you're cleaning up an area that's overgrown and may have thorny weeds or poison ivy, you're going to want to have loose sleeves and gloves and pants to protect yourself from that environment. Okay? Long sleeve shirt, hats, glasses. When you do an internet search for your gear, a lot of people put gardening hat, gardening shirt, gardening gloves, gardening this. The prices of gardening stuff is high. Who else is outside and does outdoor activity? Fishermen. That's where I go to get a lot of my outdoor clothing and things like that, because the prices are very reasonable. And then if you catch them on sale, like this shirt hanging up here is a sun shirt, and it has vents in it to keep you cool, but it also keeps the sun on you. Okay. The right gloves for the right task. I was putting in some beds, some passable, and I used rubber gloves. By the end of the week, my gloves had no tips. If that had been my raw hands, I would have been hurting. If you're going to be planting and using the water, and you want to use something that is good for there, but always wear gloves and the proper footwear. Sandals are cute, flip-flops are comfortable, but they're not for gardening. Now, if you live in an older community, an old homestead, they didn't have trash service, okay? They burned it, broke it up, buried it. So if you go barefoot or if you have flip-flops on, you don't know what you might be stepping on that could hurt you, okay? So be careful about that. Wear the proper footwear. So today I'm going to talk about different tools. And I want you to know that these tools are for demonstration purposes only. I am not endorsing the Master Gardener of Hamilton County. We're not endorsing these products. We're just using these as examples. Protective eyewear. You can go to any hardware store, garden center, big box, any cheapy department stores, go to their outdoor area, their hunting, fishing. You can find protective eyewear, okay? It's very important, okay? Don't think we have to cover everything. Right glove for the right task. Latex is good for working damp things. Leather goods, great if you're working with rock, stone, or thorns. Okay. And cotton gloves are great just for general protection, but also to keep your hands a little warm. Okay. And also keeps bacteria from getting up on your fingertips. You don't realize how much bacteria is in the soil. So ergonomics was a phrase that's back in 1949. It is the study of tools and utensils, how and our usage and how we body. Okay. So it's been around for a while. And this was mostly thought of for commercial, industrial, but we have now applied that to the home. Okay, there are a lot of ergonomic tools, okay, out there. Ergonomic gardening tools, they were really hard to find, very, very expensive. But as baby boomers have aged, the demand has risen, the prices have come down. You might not be able to find ergonomic tools on the shelf, but if you go to that store's website, you're going to be able to find them very easy. And their price actually is very reasonable, I found out recently. So these are great for not only, different gardening. So they're designed to keep your wrist straight. Because when we use other tools, our wrist is down. That puts strain on thumb, your wrist, which goes back. Do you remember the old childhood song, the ankle bone is connected well in your arm? That's the same. So when you put stress here, you feel it. So ergonomic tools help keep your body in natural alignment. You don't have to have a full set of tools. Find out which one you need the most and pursue that, okay? Because if you can't afford it. Now, also too, which one is best for you? Because they also have these where the handle is sticking up. This is good if you want to use two hands. Especially if you're getting weak in the arms, this is good. You can have more steady, right? So find out. Talk to other gardeners, find out what works for them, find out, and then ask the borrowers, like it, buy it. All right, hands. Our hands, we use our hands all the time. And we want to make sure we take care of our hands. Between the carpal tunnel and the thumb, wrist, which you can have solid discs. Now, who uses wrist sprints besides gardeners? Bowlers, tennis people. So don't think I've got to find something to gardening, okay? This will help keep your wrist straight, okay? And remind you not to put strain on your wrist, okay? Sports stores, go to the bowling, tennis aisle, and you will find these fairly cheap, okay? That happens to be mine because I bowl with a 12.5-pound ball. That's a lot of weight, wrist. Okay. All right. Cooler temperatures can impact if you have arthritis or carpal tunnel syndrome. So if I am gardening either early in the spring or late in the fall, I buy a pair of gloves that's slightly larger, and I get a glove liner and put on warmer. Okay, so if you suffer from arthritis and cold itching, remember that. I came across these and had to show you. This is how outrageous the ergonomic industry is getting. These are called bionic gloves. They were designed by an orthopedic surgeon. They have padding and structure and are supposed to help you reduce the strain on your hands. I just thought they were so crazy. So I had to show. Okay. Plant state. Okay, don't know if our Zoom people can see this, it's really tiny. How many of you have gotten a plant steak and in your life? You're using your hands. So what are you doing to your grip? You're tightening this, tightening your fingers, tightening, and then you're pulling down, you're pulling this. Use something else instead of your hands, because all that tight grip is going to put strain on your hands. Okay. When I worked in the nursery business, I was young. Okay. I did everything. I did it. And you know the 1 gallon buckets? So when the truck came in, we would all line up, unload the truck. And you were taught how to pick up 3 1 gallon buckets each hand. And you're like, now what did that do to your hands? You're pinching your fingers and you're doing this. Wasn't helpful. So don't do that. You'll see those young people at the gardening centers do that. Don't do that, it's gonna hurt you. All right, so when you have a container, don't try to pick up the container by the edges. Hold the container. Okay, use your whole arm and hands, not the sides. Ergonomic pruners. I don't have a pair, but what you want is to make sure that it has a non-slip grip and that it allows your fingers to move more freely and they're comfortable and they're going to keep your wrists straight. Okay. Ergonomic pruners are designed to reduce the stress on your hands and make it 30% less effort. Okay. Weeder. I just have a weeder. So if you look, the picture down in the lower right hand shows a typical weeder where you're bending your wrist. Weeders straight because of the curved knee. Less stress on your wrist, your thumb, your elbow, and your shoulder. Okay? So, the handle is curved. Right? And they're not too heavy. Okay, so you're not really having to push it very hard, but they're very durable. Trowels. Okay, so typical trowel, you're kind of digging like this, or here, you can keep your hand and your wrist again straight. We do a lot with our hands, so we got to protect them. We want to alleviate the pain from starting. Okay. And we already talked about the handle straight up, so that you can either dig or write with that. Find out what works best for you. So these are just a few of the ergonomic tools. You can also find attachments that go on top of the tools to help you. This set here comes with an insert that you can put into this. Okay. So it has an addition. If you don't like it, you can take it out. So there's also tools that you can attach to your existing trunks and meters. And I had to show these gloves. You have them? Okay.
Takes a little getting used to. I wonder.
Yeah, they take a little bit of getting used to, but there are things out there. Okay, knees. It never fails as we get older, we reach that over 45. There's going to be somebody in your life who's getting knee surgery. Okay, whether it is from sports or arthritis or whatever, we have bad knees. Okay, we abuse our bodies, we grow up. So we want to cushion our knees. And we have different knee pads. Now, I can get down on my knees for a little bit, but I can't get back up. So having a knee support like the one in this picture has the frame that you can push up with to help you rise up. Okay. And if you have problems with your knees, you might want to consider other options. Okay. So there are lots of things out there for your knees. I don't like being on my knees. My knees are really bad. Sitting options. So like the purple kneeler in the prior slide, you can also turn that upside down and make it into a stool. You can also find larger cushions instead of the very narrow we find for knees. You can find them larger. This happens to be mine. This is large enough for me to sit on as well. Okay, so when I get tired on my knees, I'll walk over and I'm like my great grandmother, I'm scooting around in the garden. There's stools. I've used my walker coming up on 30, okay, and it is still going. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but I am fine with it because it helps me keep my back straight. I was in the Navy and I hurt my back. So for 40-something years, I used the excuse, I hurt my back in the Navy and I can't clean the bathtub. Sticking to that story because my husband cleans the bathtub. Okay. This requires balance. So if you don't feel comfortable, because it is a rocker, and I can swivel it, I can tilt, I can do everything on it. 30-something years I've been. There are also other things with tractor wheels. It takes you about one garden session to get used to it and how to maneuver it, but the wheels give you more stability and allow you to go up and down the rows. Okay. Now, if you use these seats in a typical garden, you're going to want some candles because you don't want to be bending your back over. Okay. And reach tools. These are wonderful if you're on the stools. That way you don't have to bend your back in an awkward position. They're also great if you are like me, sitting in the garden. I can have your reach or raised beds. These are wonderful for raised beds. Okay. Doing pretty good raking leaves in the fall. I'm good to go with a leaf rake, but I'm not so good. It hurts my back to bend over. I don't have a pair of these, but I wish I did. I've seen somebody use them before. Because here's me, I bend over about 3 or 4 times, gathering up the leaves to put in the wheelbarrow. And then I stop and I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Please send the wind and disperse the leaves into my neighbor's yards. Because they're like 20 and 30 years younger than me. Okay, so listen to your body and figure out a way to do something. And these, you just grab, you don't have to bend your back. That's terrible, terrible. Raised beds. These are wonderful. You can sit on them, you can pull up a stool to the side of them. I've seen people in wheelchairs come up, they have these long reach tools they can use. So raised beds is not only good for you, it is good for the plants. Because you're filling up these raised beds with good soil. So wonderful. It's what they used to call a win-win situation. Okay. Raised beds can be designed for your needs. And there are so many products out there on the market today that you just order and assemble, or you can get the materials yourself. You can have them elevated. And that way individuals who really can't get down, they have to garden up, they can still garden. You see raised elevated beds in a lot of assisted living facilities because people still want to garden, they enjoy it. It's good for their mental well-being, but to the side of garden with be stable and not have to bend over or sit down and worry about that. So raised beds is ideal. This is my backyard. I told you I have a tiny yard. This is in progress and I moved all this past. A lot of work, but I can sit in some of the beds, sit on the edge and garden. Raised beds are made out of just a wide variety of materials and combination of materials. So whatever your architectural desire is, there's a model out there for you. To save your back. I tell you, I can't lift the way I used to. So you want to make sure when you lift, you're squatting up, you're not bending over and pushing your back. It's going to hurt your back. Carrying a big pot or bag, don't do it. Put it in a cart. Now, wheelbarrows. I'm not a big fan of wheelbarrows. I like other people to have wheelbarrows because without wheelbarrows, we would be lacking in America's funniest videos because it never fails those one-wheel wheelbarrows. People overload them, then they go over ground that's unlevel, potholes, this and that, and they're doing this. Okay? Great comedy, but not good for you. Use something a little bit more stable, like 4 wheels. I have a cart here, 4 wheels. It carries up to 200 pounds. And the great thing about that cart is in the middle, it has a pull tab and you pulled it up and it folds up. You can see I have a computers, projectors, and things like that. It gets heavy, so I can use that for my computer. Plant dollies. If you are planting and you have big plants, A lot of people try to strap them on a furniture dolly. A furniture dolly has a small shell. And it has a straight back. Round pots, root balls are round. So when you go over unlevel ground, they're going to hold a bunch of really strong holding. Plant dollies have a curved back and they have a larger shelf. Okay, they're designed for the realness. If you don't have one, see if you could borrow one. And also some of your centers, you can rent them. Okay. Long handled tools. I grew up in Texas. I can count on one hand the number of times I saw snow growing up. And the snow was normally about no more than a dusting or a half inch, and it melted within an hour. I joined the Navy, and where did they send me? Groton, Connecticut. I have never seen that much snow in my life. Okay, and I was so excited to shovel the sidewalk. Okay, snow looks light and fluffy. Snow is not light and fluffy. It feels like 2 gallons of water. So an ergonomic shovel is a necessity in shoveling snow. Now, if you have a good tool, there are different attachments that you can put on your existing long-handled tools to help it do better. Okay. Show my Zoom people that there are attachments and you can keep your back straight while using the tools. Okay. Back savers. All right. So long handled tools, we normally bend over and we're doing this. Get an attachment if you have a good tool and you don't want to just toss it away. Very good. All right. And if you have a back injury like me, this will pay for itself. Footwear. We talked about footwear, no sandals, no flip-flops. I don't even want people to garden barefoot. I love gardening when I was 5 years old because we would follow the plow through the fields and then we would be barefoot. Part of East Texas and the soils are a little sandy. And we would sit down, put our feet together, pack the soil over our feet, and then gently pull our feet out and have a cave for the toes. Okay, so I love to garden barefoot, but I wouldn't do it because I know I know the dangers. All right, so you want to make sure that they're waterproof, they're non-slip, and they're pretty sturdy. There's nothing worse than putting your foot on a shovel and hurting the arch of your foot. Okay, a lot of people don't think about it, but it does put strain on your foot. Also, too, those are mine. I would like higher because if you have perennials like peonies and daylilies, what loves to live underneath there? Pretty crawly things. So if you have a good pair of boots that comes up a little higher, something might get your boot but not your ankle. All right. Okay, so we talked about how to keep our body healthy while we garden. Now we're going to switch over to safety. Okay, so how do we garden to keep healthy? Now it is safety. how we execute to be safe. Now, as we go through this next part, I want you to think about safety. And there's two ways of looking at this. There are things that we can't control but can mitigate. And then there are things within your control, okay, that you can totally avoid it. But there are some things, it's there, we can't control it, but if you stay aware, you can mitigate it, okay? And as I said earlier, when I was in the Navy, I worked with the Navy Safety Office. When I got out of the Navy, did about a dozen years on guard industry, but then I found out it doesn't pay a lot, doesn't have health benefits. I wanted health benefits, so I had to change careers. And I went into law enforcement. A lot of diversity, right? But I was in law enforcement and during my career, okay, for the military, every office is a safety officer. Every manager has to take safety courses and give safety privileges to their employees. So safety in the military is top priority with them. So I had a lot of safety drilled into me. Okay, so how we approach and execute our job and be aware of our surroundings, okay? So in the military, we had a safety officer for every office. I don't care if you worked in personnel, you had a safety officer. But our safety is everyone's responsibility. If you see something, say something. I love this little cartoon. It shows the guy in the rain mowing with an electric mower, radio, electric video, and tools laying out, stepping stones, upsets, safety. Okay, before you begin anything in your yard, whether if you are digging or something from the yard, I'm going to teach you some more. Okay. Okay. So when state and federal makes it's typical a title, which is a big one, and then you get a chapter, and then you get a paragraph. Okay. So the volume, chapter, paragraph, volume, chapter, paragraph. Tennessee law. Title 65, chapter 1, paragraph 1, under utility image prevention. And I'm going to read this because this is very important. In the state of Tennessee, state law requires anyone about to engage in either digging, excavation, moving of earth, demolition, or any type of activity that disturbs the earth and therefore possibly involving injury to damaging underground utility lines must notify the Tennessee 811. So if you move into an old house, landscaping is terrible and you want to pull it out, you got to call 811. If you were planting, you have to be wanting to do a new bed, you got to call Tennessee 811. Okay, it is the law. Don't do it. Disturb a utility line, charge you. So dig with care. Call Tennessee 811. Wait for them to mark your property. Respect the markings and excavate with care. Okay, it's the law. So, and this applies to homeowners, construction, commercial. You have to do this. So, environmental hazards. We can't control it. But we can be aware of it. So some exposure, wear sleeves, wear sunscreen, okay? Because some exposure can do real damage to you. Okay? Heat exhaustion. Know what the symptoms of heat stroke, heat exhaustion, sun poisoning. I'm not going to give it to you today, but you can go out on the internet to places like WebMD and search for it, and it will tell you. Become familiar with that. Snakes. I lived in Tennessee for about 4 years. My last year in Virginia, we had a gym that was very interesting. They said it was the perfect conditions for copperhead breeding. Now, in my area, we had 5 people in 2 weeks get bit by copperheads. Now, what did they do? They went to their mailbox, got their mail, and as they're coming back to the house, now they're not gardening, and some of them had on their little house slippers and, you know, and they're walking and they look, oh, look, in my daylily, there's a weed, and they reach down and they would pull that weed, because one, they're not gardening, they're not aware of their surroundings, they don't have gloves on, and they got bit. So 4 people got bit on the hand, 1 person got bit. Okay. Now, Tuesday, in my house. Now, you know, we have, I have a walkout basement with 2 doors. And we just put in a new storm door with a dog flap for my dogs. And we didn't notice that in one corner, leather stripping didn't go on the edge. So Tuesday, we get up and I take my dogs to the room. We come back and I'm like, I gotta go do some laundry. So I go down in my basement and I get a load of laundry going and I come out and I'm like, and I'm looking upstairs. I call these my witchy Bratty, because if you want to get something off of a high shelf, you know, or if you pull a limb down the front can, well, guess what I learned? I can grab a snake with this too. Okay. Didn't kill it. Grabbed it, took it outside and released it. But let me tell you, when I got done, my heart was just a pounding. And my husband's just looking at me going, you did that? And he's watching me. Because he had to help me, because when I screamed, I took off one wing and the snake took off another. Oh my gosh, scared me. Another legal point, in the state of Tennessee, it's illegal to kill a native snake. Okay? Unless, whether it's venomous or not, if it is harmless and it's not bothering you, if it is a danger to you or a domestic animal, you can kill it. But otherwise, don't kill it. It's illegal. Okay? Who knew? Insect stings. Ants, wasps, bees, hornets. It goes on and on and on. Sleeve shirts help, and poisonous plants. Okay. The gloves, the long sleeves, the pants, you know, that is very serious if you have an allergy. Okay. So these things we can't control, but if you are aware you can mitigate the potential risk. Okay, you can't control it. Okay, sun protection. This is so important. Just this year, I had skin cancer. Yeah. So know the signs, go out there, watch others. Use the sunscreen, use the protective wear, especially if you're gardening with kids. Okay. Other potential hazards. As master gardeners, we go and work on projects. And you wouldn't believe how many times people show up without water. And we typically work for 3 or 4 hours. Come on, you've got to stay hydrated. Okay. Chemical exposure. A little bit is good, a lot must be better, no. So make sure you have the protective gear on. Watch your eyes, watch your hands, wash everything, okay? Heavy lifting, hurts your back, can be avoided. Digging. This is family, master gardeners, when there's one person digging, there's typically another person on the ground helping. Oh, let me get that rock out for you. Let me get that root out of the way. And what happens, the shovel goes down, the hand goes in the hole. Potential problem, okay? Tripping hazards, all right? We leave tools, if you're used to working by yourself, and you toss a shovel aside, or rake aside, or leave a trowel, okay, you gotta remember where you toss those things, because the next thing you know, they're all over the yard and you're tripping over them. Okay. All right, so these are things you can control. Tool maintenance. Make sure your tools are good at the end of the year. My husband went to use a shovel one time, and he did this and big crack, and we didn't see it. So you got to check and inspect your tools. Make sure there are no loose parts on them. Make sure that the handles are still good. Repair or replace and clean your tools. A good sharp tool will save you energy. Now, I get to plug our fall festival, okay? September 30th, Saturday, here at the Extension Office grounds, we will have a demonstration on tool maintenance, okay? So if you're interested in learning, come up and attend that. Okay. So being in law enforcement, I studied law. And I studied some consumer protection. This is the Consumer Protection Safety Commission data. Now, why do I take safety so seriously? This slide will tell you why you should take safety seriously as well. Each year, now this is not just 1 year it happened. This is every year. We average about 400,000 people are treated in the hospital emergency room for injuries while working in their lawn or garden. Okay, that's significant. Each year, about over 25,000 people are injured while riding a lawnmower or a tractor. Now, out of that, about 75 people are killed on those lawnmowers or tractors. And 1 in 5 children. Okay? Because they're so small, we don't see them. Okay, they run out in front of the lawnmower or the tractor and you see them. So this is why we should take safety seriously. The most common injury is falling off a ladder. Okay. We recently had a master gardener who was doing something on a ladder and fell. Dislocated a hip. Now, this person didn't have a cell phone. And this person also has a very soft voice. And their spouse couldn't hear them calling for help. All right. So make sure I garden with either a full apron, tool belt, and I make sure I have my cell phone with me. But for those in here, you also see I have a whistle. I'll talk about the whistle later. So most of the injuries are from. I studied law and I studied consumer protection. And there was a case study that we were examining. There was a gentleman suing a company because he lost his fingers. Okay. And he claimed that there was no disclaimer information on the product that says he couldn't do it. So now, how did he lose his fingers? He was trimming hedges. Guess what he was using? His lawnmower. And you know, some lawnmowers today have those little gadgets that when you release it, it kills the mower. Well, he rigged it so it would keep running. And then he lifted it up, and then he's trying to balance this thing, and it chopped his fingers off. So I'm thinking, okay, so the company's argument was it is a lawn mower. We sell hedge trimmers. So what next? So he sued. Now I'm thinking this is the dumbest thing there is, right? Yeah. And it was really funny because that was in March. Now, later in the summer, it was like the September timeframe. My husband comes home and he says, I've got to put in some overtime. One of the other supervisors hurt himself and he worked for a few weeks. I'm like, oh my gosh, did he have an accident? A car accident? No. He chopped his fingers off. He goes, you won't believe what he was doing. I said, he used his lawnmower for a hedge, didn't he? And he goes, yeah, how did you know? I'm like, oh my gosh. So use the proper tool in the proper way. I'd say something, but I'd get in trouble. But so use equipment responsibly. Follow the instructions. Use the tool for what it was intended for. Okay? Safety for yourself. Know your limitations. I am constantly nagging master gardeners. Hey, you just had surgery. Don't lift that. Don't raise your room too much. Okay, because people don't follow the advice of their doctor. If you can't lift more than 20 pounds, don't lift that 40-pound bag of topsoil. Okay. Maintain self-awareness. I am a type 2 diabetic. There's good levels for a diabetic. I'm normally about here. But when I start working, because exercise reduces blood sugar. When I get down here, if I don't do something right away, you're going to be picking me off the ground. Maintain self-awareness, okay? All right. I keep snacks wherever I go, whether I'm gardening or whether I'm riding my motorcycle. I keep snacks with me because this helps, keeps my sugars from going too low. All right. Protect yourself. All the gear we talked about. You need dress, protective dresses, wear them. You need gloves, wear them. Alert identification. Motorcycle riders. You see motorcycle riders, they have their leather with their denim vest on. Okay? And we got patches and it's all over, because we like to show where we've been and what we've done. But in pockets, we also keep our name, what we want an EMT to know, and our emergency contact. Because when we're out and about, the people I ride with don't know this information. The people I garden don't know this information. So when I'm working on the Master Gardener project, I have this in my pocket somewhere. Okay? So if you are gardening with others, whether it's through, a community site, your church, you want to make sure that people have that information. Cell phone and whistle. Our dear Master Gardener who fell off the ladder didn't have a whistle and didn't have a cell phone right there for a while. Okay, don't let that happen. If you have a soft-spoken voice and you don't want to carry your cell phone, get a whistle. They're cheap. Because guess what? I grew up, families on the water all the time. Sound waves are absorbed. Water, if you're on a kayak or a boat, people aren't going to hear you. If you're in your backyard, people aren't going to be able to hear you. Have a whistle, that whistle go across the water. It will go across and people will hear it. Okay. So protect yourself, especially if you're gardening by yourself. Safety for others. The Three Stooges made a career out of poking fun at our mishaps. And you've seen them do the construction worker and the lawn and garden bits, because we are aware of this space. Okay? We're not aware of this space, and we're not aware of this space. So when we're carrying something that sticks out, like an armful of shrubs, and then you real quick, what happens to the person on either side of you? They get whacked, okay? We've all seen it happen. And when it happens and we watch it on TV, we get to laugh about it because those are the things that comics love. Stooges made a career out of it. America's funniest videos. They're making a career out of it because we only know the space around us. So when you work with others, you have to be aware of those other people, okay? Last year we were setting up a tent for our fall festival. It's a big 30-foot tent, big 6 and 8 foot poles. Somebody picked up a pole and whoop, I happen to be standing on this side, and I got it. And I'm like, whoop. So you got to clear all the time. Be safe with tools. So we like to help one another. It's using saw, drill. I know where my fingers are. You don't know where your fingers are. Okay? So if we're doing something together, you got to make sure that your fingers are not where my drill and my saw is going to be. Okay? Last year we cleaned up the arboretum out here and we did a lot of pruning. And you know how you're like, okay, let me in. So somebody loads you up with all here, and you're walking. We got hose, we got rakes, we got shovels, we got wheelbarrows out there. We don't know, we can't see a thing. And then there's a curb out there. Very dangerous. So you have to make sure that you alert people of the dangers when you work with others in the garden, okay, especially if they can't see, all right? 911. So if you get hit in the head, there's not a lot of tissue there and it will bleed a lot, okay? And especially as people who have certain medical conditions and they are on blood thinners, it will bleed a lot, okay? Remain calm and evaluate. Now, fleshy parts of our body, especially our fingers. See my finger? I got myself. But they tend to not bleed as much, but can be some. So calmly look and evaluate. And if somebody passes out, don't wait, call 911, okay? Because working outside, and especially this coming week, when we have, 98 degrees, it's gonna be hot, people are gonna be driving, okay? When I was in boot camp, and we were out there in the great fields, it never failed. People started dropping off. Okay, working with others, we've already talked about it. Using the drill, using sharp tools, carrying big loads, things on the ground. If you are gardening with others, if you have kids in the yard, kids don't look out for where they're going, so make sure that everybody is safe. Accidents waiting to happen. The things, comics, okay. And using a ladder, okay. The ladder, you have certain range on range, but it never fails. People want to go beyond that and they start leaning. Okay. Oh, they're too lazy to get down and move it over 20 inches. And when you have a saw in your hand and you're falling, oh my gosh, about danger. We've already talked about the wilderness. Safety for kids. So when you have kids gardening with you, it's a whole different realm. Because what is safe for you might not be safe for them. Okay? And kids, everything, they are moving quick. And I don't know what it is, but water and kids are like magnets, okay? Magnets. And you turn back, they are first in a pool of water, okay? Even the little small decorative water fountains, they don't have to be very deep, 12 inches, 18 inches. A small child that their head is typically bigger than their body, down in there, they can't get back up. Their arms are too small and they can drown in just 2 inches of water. So be careful, keep your eyes open for these kids because they will get into things. Last spring, we did a show for East Brainerd Elementary, 8 stations, and I did compost. Now, these are elementary school. We had a group come. I don't know how many times this happened. They would come in small groups of 5 to 10. Well, I was showing them compost and worm castings. This little boy, well, what's worm castings? Well, it's worm food. But this quick, that kid had his hand in the bowl and was putting it in his mouth. And I'm like, but everything goes in their mouth. So poisonous plants, that type of thing, everything goes in their mouth. Think, oh, I can taste it, okay? Flowers, different veggies, and you know, they think the tomato plant, the tomato, I can't remember the plant. So you gotta watch out and watch them carefully. Cause anything will go in their mouth, okay? Limit the use of chemicals. Like I said, anything that will go in their mouth, and if you just spray, it's gonna go in their mouth, all right, and they're gonna touch you. Okay? We don't want that. And remember, the Consumer Protection Safety Commission, their data, limit the use of big tools around them, the riding mowers and the tractors. It's fun for a kid to ride the tractor, but if you're on the tractor and they're not on it, they're gonna try to chase you down on it. So limit the use of that, because we don't want them to get harmed. We want to encourage them to have fun in the garden, not get hurt in the garden. Pets. There are different things in the garden, some plants. We will have this in October. The pet safety and the third Saturday. So different plants can be hazardous. Now, your cat or dog might be attracted to something that others aren't. So you have to watch them. They're very unique. If you spray your lawn or your garden with a chemical, read the directions to find out how. You have to keep them off of it. Don't let dogs eat birdseed. Some of the ingredients might be toxic, like raisins. Shouldn't eat raisins. So if you have suet or birdseed, and birds are very filthy, and it goes all over, and the squirrels help them out, you know, getting it all over, they will come through and eat it underneath the bird feeder. And small pebbles. So in my garden, I put in a path. I would go to sit. So I put down small area pebbles because I was putting down pavers, pebbles in between. And I waited to see if my dogs were going to bother it. And they didn't bother it. I put down mulch. It didn't bother it. So then I have this area underneath my second story deck. This is my bench where the tools go, and there's a area. It stays kind of wet under there. It doesn't really dry out. So I thought, wonderful, I'll put rubber mulch down so that way it doesn't create mold. Here's my dog. Now. What is this dog chewing on? Rubber mulch. Rubber mulch is not good. Not only cloth. Down a semi-tractor trailer treads, and it has metal fibers in it. So here I am sitting down underneath my deck with a bucket and a little trowel, pulling up 10 bags of rubber mulch. Okay, so I did have a place to put it, so I was glad about that. So
They have to do. It's double problem in the past. And so they came and they came out with gun plastic and all around some of them. But he saw that was still there was some long plastic. And he said when the guy went to the ductwork was getting all the ductwork and there was this way. So these 3 miles in the field with some miles getting under there. And he saw that. This is something and unless you got in to even think about it, we have to get rid of some garments to be sure we'll get rid of it. Yes, so your products, we'll get a hold of. You know, and so we have to use somebody that won't.
Yeah, so the comment was, if you have some type of rodent like voles, rats, you gotta be careful about the chemical you use. So there's like pellets, poisonous pellets that the rats and mice and voles eat. Well, you gotta be careful because your pet will eat those as well. So don't use those, because they will digest those as well, harm your pet, so be careful with that. I don't have a rat problem, because one, I got that red snake that lives in my backyard, but I also have schnauzers, and they are ratters, they will attack the rats. So things to consider. Always have your water. Okay. Use your protective gear. Apply sunscreen. When you medicate, if you're working outside and you know you're going to be exposed to A, B, or C and you're allergic to it, bring it, because the quicker you put something on them, the better it is. And obey your doctor's orders. I shouldn't have to say this, but you believe how many times I have to tell master gardeners that. They think they're not of value unless they're doing something, but it's violating their doctor's orders. And I get mad because in the long term, you're hurting yourself more. Okay, so take care of yourself, take care of others. Now, healthy gardening, listening to your body, doing things in a way that doesn't aggravate your body to stay healthy. Be aware of how you're gardening and what's around you in your environment to stay safe. Okay? So now you know, right? Did I meet my goal today? Did you learn at least one thing? I threw a couple of long things in there, so it's giddies because a lot of people don't study law. So those are the things, do the right thing. And I hope you learn something, and I hope it keeps you healthy and safe so you can pass on the love of gardening to your family. All right, any questions?
I didn't think about it.
When
there's no questions, she covered the subject very well. Okay, that will end our presentation for today. Be sure to remind you to come back next month. Be sure you come back next month for our acid loving plants, and then the following of the last of the same with animals to be here for that. So we thank you for coming, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.